The $5,000 hardware toll. Nvidia is now charging customers $4,500 per year for the right to use the chips they already bought. While the financial press fixates on the $81 billion in first-quarter revenue, the real story is the silent migration of the business model from a hardware cyclical to a software utility. Nvidia AI Enterprise is no longer an optional add-on. It is the gatekeeper for the Rubin and Blackwell platforms. By decoupling the software stack from the hardware purchase, Jensen is effectively installing a recurring tax on every enterprise GPU in the wild. This move isn't about accessibility. It is a defensive play to protect margins before the inevitable hardware supply glut of 2027 hits the books. The compute business is reaching a saturation point, and the only way to keep the growth curve steep is to turn the installation base into a recurring revenue stream. The NIM Bait and Switch. The introduction of Nvidia Inference Microservices, or NIMs, is the tactical execution of this software moat. On paper, NIMs are sold as a way to simplify deployment for agentic AI, but in the P&L, they represent a transition from one-time CapEx to perpetual OpEx. By standardizing these microservices, Nvidia ensures that once a company builds a workflow around a Nemotron or BioNeMo model, moving that workload to a cheaper AMD or custom silicon alternative becomes technically prohibitive. It is the classic razor and blade strategy, but with a 75% gross margin on the blade. Last month's expansion into autonomous telecom networks via the NIM platform shows they aren't just selling to developers anymore. They are embedding themselves into the core infrastructure of global utilities. Capturing the sovereign enterprise, the new reporting framework that splits data center revenue into hyperscale and ACIE, is an admission that the cloud provider gold rush is cooling. The ACIE segment, which covers industrial and enterprise, grew 31% sequentially because Nvidia is bypassing the cloud middlemen to sell directly to sovereign governments and Fortune 500 firms. When Palantir integrated the Nemotron-powered engine for government environments 2 days ago, it confirmed the strategy. Provide the models for free, then charge for the enterprise-grade runtime. This creates a captive audience in sectors like life sciences and defense, where security requirements make switching providers a multi-year regulatory nightmare. They are building a software floor that prevents the stock from falling when the hyperscale build-out inevitably slows down, the signal under the noise. The pivot to CUDA-as-a-Service is a calculated bet that software lock-in will outlast hardware dominance. By analyzing the shift in the ACIE segment and the recurring nature of NIM subscriptions, it becomes clear that Nvidia is front-running the commoditization of AI silicon. They know that as Blackwell and Vera Rubin supply lines normalize, the premium on raw compute will vanish. The real value is being moved up the stack into the orchestration layer, where margins are immune to fabrication bottlenecks or energy costs. For operators and investors, the headline revenue beat is now a secondary metric. The data that matters is the deferred revenue growth in the software line item and the adoption rate of the Nvidia AI Enterprise Suite across non-hyperscale customers. If you want to know when the top is in for the hardware cycle, watch the software attachment rate. The moment that software becomes the primary driver of earnings per share is the moment Nvidia officially stops being a chip company. Watch the second half fiscal 27 guidance for the first major breakout of recurring software run rates. Subscribe for more.